Hi, guys. I just want to say that I miss you. I miss seeing you guys when you come to Awana and church, and I hope that you're staying safe and healthy. And I'm here to tell you a story about a family that I know. There's all these members of this family, and we want to see who they are. So, the first member of my family is Mr. Dictator. This is the Tater family, okay? Mr. Dictator says that he wants things his way or the highway. He always wants to be in charge. Everything is his. You have to think. Do you ever act like Mr. Dictator? Do you always want things to be your way? Well, in James chapter 4, verse 6, God says that he opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. That means that things can't always be our way. We need to be willing to listen to others and care about others and not be like Mr. Dictator. Okay, the next member of our family is Hezi. This is Mr. Hesitator. Okay, he says he loves God, but lives like he hates him. He straddles the fence. Sometimes he lives like he's supposed to be for God, and sometimes he doesn't. He never commits to anything. He doesn't put his faith into practice. He doesn't do what he says. And he struggles with doubt and disbelief. Do you know what God has to say about Mr. Hesitator? He says in Revelations 3:16 that because you are lukewarm, because you're not choosing a side on what you choose, if you choose God or not, then I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. He does not like it when we can't make decisions like that. So you have to choose. Are you going to follow God or not follow God? You can't be both sides like Mr. Hesitator. Okay? All right. The next member of our family is Spec, Mr. Spectator. Mr. Spectator, he likes to watch things, but he doesn't like to get involved. He's always there, sitting around, and he has an opinion about everything. He wants all of the privileges, but no responsibility. We have a responsibility to get involved. In James chapter 1, verse 22, it says, do not merely listen to the word, but we have to do what it says. We can't just sit around and watch and not get involved. We have to be involved with things that are going on around us. All right, our next Tater family member is Regurgitator. He goes to church all the time and he knows all of his verses. He knows all of his Bible stories. But he never stops to think about what they say. He can tell you all about them, but he never thinks about it. He says he loves God, but he doesn't always show it. He knows it up here, but he doesn't feel it in his heart. In Titus chapter 1, verse 16, it says, they claim to know God, but by their actions they deny him. They are disobedient and are useless for doing anything good. So you have to think, are you taking the time to understand what you believe and what you are learning? Or are you just learning it and just spitting it back out, not taking the time to understand it? All right, our next Tater, they're twins. We have Ira and Agitator. Irritator and Agitator. Okay. Agitator is always stirring up trouble, creates confusion. It's very negative. I told you it wouldn't work. It's not my fault. An irritator complains and grumbles about everything, speaks bad about people, doesn't like peace and quiet. It always has a bad attitude. Are you being negative or positive? Are you trying to build others up or bring them down? Okay. Ephesians 4:29 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of our mouths. Are we saying nice things or bad things? What's going on? Rid yourself of all deceit, hypocrisy, and slander of any kind. Okay? That's what the Bible says. That we shouldn't be stirring up trouble. We should be kind to people. Don't be like an irritator or an agitator and get people all upset. All right. We have another member of the Tater family. This is Miss Imitator. She looks happy, doesn't she? She tries to be good. She wants to be like others, but she doesn't always pick the right people to imitate. According to the Bible in Ephesians 5:1, it says that we have to be imitators of God, not imitators of the people around us. The people around us don't always do the right thing, but God does. So when we're making choices, we have to think, what would God do? Or what would Jesus do? Okay? We have one last member of our Tater family. This one is Sweet Tater. Sweet Tater doesn't fit in. She acts differently. She looks different. She has a sweet spirit, and she loves God and she loves others. Are you a Sweet Tater? In 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4-8, it says that love is patient and love is kind. It does not envy and it does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. What they're talking about in that verse is Jesus. Jesus is the love. So we could read it again and put Jesus' name in there. So Jesus is patient. Jesus is kind. He does not envy. He does not boast. He is not proud. He is not rude. He is not self-seeking. He is not easily angered. He keeps no records of wrongs. Jesus does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. He always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Jesus never fails. And since we're supposed to be imitators of Jesus, we can put our own names in there. And we can ask ourselves, are we always being patient and kind? Are we being envy? Do we boast? Are we proud? Are we being rude? We have to think about those things. Okay, so as you're going about your day, try to be like Sweet Tater, who imitates Jesus. And we want to imitate Jesus as well. Bye, guys. right, guys, I want to tell you a story about a sweet tater that was in the Bible, and her name was Ruth. So this is the story of Naomi and Ruth. In the days when judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons, and they married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other named Ruth. And after they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and without her husband. She was all alone. Then Naomi heard that God had provided food for the Israelites, and so she decided to return to Bethlehem. She blessed both of her daughter-in-laws and told them that they should return to live with their families. With great compassion, Naomi hoped that they would both find new husbands among their own people. She knew they would have a very uncertain future with her. Eventually, Orpah did what Naomi asked and returned to her family, and Naomi pleaded with Ruth to do the same. But Ruth replied, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. So Ruth stayed with her mother-in-law and didn't go back to her family. She wanted to stay and help Naomi after her husband had died. Now Naomi had a relative on her husband's side from the clan of Elimelech, a man of standing whose name was Boaz. You see, I'll switch the picture so you can see. And Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor." Naomi said to her, "Go ahead, my daughter." So she went out and began to glean in the fields behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she found herself working in a field belonging to Boaz. Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. "The Lord be with you." "And the Lord bless you," they called back. Boaz asked the foreman of his harvesters, "Whose young woman is that?" The foreman replied, "She is the Moabitess who came back from Moab with Naomi." So Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the girls. I have told the men not to touch you, and wherever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." So Ruth stayed close to the servant girls of Boaz to glean until the barley and wheat harvests were finished. So Ruth left her family to go with her mother-in-law to a country she had never been. She must have been a little scared, but she told Naomi that your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. She gave up everything she knew to go with her, and when she got there, she went to the fields to work for food for them, and she took care of Naomi. She went on to marry Boaz, and she ended up being the great-grandma of King David, all because she relied on God. Isn't that awesome? I hope you enjoyed the story of Ruth, and I hope that you hear more stories about wonderful sweet taters in the Bible and heroes of the Bible. See you soon.